Hi everybody, Dan here. I want to review the Managing Virtual Teams exercise and also the exercise we did on Sati. So let's start with the virtual teams. Have you ever heard of this old public speaking maxim designed to make you less nervous? Have you ever had somebody say, imagine your audience in their underwear? That will make you less nervous. I've never understood that. I've never understood why such an appalling vision would reduce speaker anxiety. Now you may be wondering why is Dan showing me this image? Well, here's why. Chances are when you are leading a team in cyberspace, when you are having a webinar, when you are reaching out to them virtually, they may very well be in the underwear. Certainly they will be surrounded by the distractions there at home. Studies have shown that when you're trying to reach out to your people in a virtual team setting, they're not listening. 65% are doing other work or sending other emails or eating or making food, going to the bathroom, texting. I'll bet you this is higher, texting. Checking social media, I know that's higher than 43%, etc., etc., etc. So the question is, how do you engage and motivate team members who are floating around in cyberspace? Well, I did some research, and this is what the experts say. Here's 3 ways that might help. One is make a game out of it. You establish an environment of friendly competition. Points are awarded. You have a leaderboard for everybody to see, and you have rewards. Maybe, what is it? Starbucks coupons or gift cards or something like that. Another thing that you can do is pair everybody up into buddy systems. The minute you are part of a team, a one-on-one team, you feel an obligation to hold up your portion, to carry your weight. It also creates creativity because 2 heads are better than 1, and it can create friendships, which makes it more fun. Because studies have shown that virtual team members in cyberspace are lonely. Also, you want to make yourself visible as the leader because people learn how you say something, not what you say. Now, we have read, here it is, week 9, so we've done a lot of reading. We've read that leaders, for the most part, should delegate authority. The old hands-on management leadership style is considered obsolete today. But many of the experts I came across suggested that hands-on management works best for virtual teams because it removes all confusion, all ambiguity. It makes things more clear, and it provides a framework for consistent response. This idea of consistent response is important because the people that are responding all the time are the ones you can trust. This is a quote from one of the experts. But as an instructor, this resonates with me. When I teach online, those who are constantly responding are the ones that I form a picture of and are the ones that, that I feel like I can trust the most. One of the problems of virtual teams is that this distance can create an us versus them mentality. In other words, us, we, the team in cyberspace versus headquarters versus the suits. So as leaders, we have to disabuse our people of having that kind of attitude. And we have to always preach the corporate mission. The secret for you as a leader to engage your team is to constantly communicate with them because studies have shown that this is what they crave. One of the experts that I came across said this: live and breathe your email. checking your inbox as the highest priority. This is the number one instruction he gives to his team members. Live and breathe your email. Checking your inbox. Check it first thing in the morning, check it a couple of hours later, check it later in the afternoon, check it that evening before you go to bed. All right. I'm clicking here. Let's review Sati. Now, I did not want to get into the debate on discussion board because I didn't want to influence anybody's thinking. And there are no correct answers. So if you vote differently from somebody else, that's fine. But it's only fair, since I put you in that ethical situation, to tell you my vote. And I vote to interfere, to stop the funeral, to stop the practice of sati. So let me give you my reasons why. Your scenario says that you have to keep a low profile unless you think the interests of the British Empire are threatened. Well, I think they are. How is it in the best interest of the British Empire to allow a helpless woman to be burned alive beneath the waving flag of England? The whole world would see that you sanctioned this barbaric practice. So even though I think this is consistent with my instructions, the interests of the British Empire are threatened by this practice, and I would want to stop it. I would also fall back on the utilitarian theory of ethics. Act for the greatest good for the greatest number of people. Well, now some of you said that interfering might cause an all-out war and cause many, many deaths. I guess that's certainly possible. But in the long run, in the long term, how many thousands of women will be saved and furthermore elevated out of their position of second-class citizens? But Dan, it's their culture. Well, it is their culture. But I am not obligated to respect all cultural practices, especially ritualized murder. And that's what this is. I would have the confidence to act on my more life-affirming values. I would have the moral confidence and defend my actions by saying that in this respect, and in this respect only, my cultural values are superior. They may not be superior in any other case, but in this particular case, yes. I'll pose this question to you. Let's say we were not at war with the Nazis in World War II, but we heard and we had firm evidence that they were exterminating the entire Jewish population, which they tried to do. They killed 6 million. I believe we would have been justified in interfering even without war. Even though, let's say, the practice was democratically supported, even though it was, quote, their culture, unquote. I would think the more civilized Western countries or Eastern countries, whoever, would have been justified in invading and stopping this practice. But Dan, you have orders from your superiors to stay invisible. Well, that's true. My job would not be that important to me. There's a point where you have to look out for your own conscience. I would be haunted for the rest of my life if I had had the power to stop this barbarism and didn't. But the widow, Dan, knows the culture. All right, let me make a point here. Even if the widow voluntarily submitted to this barbaric practice, I would stop it. Because if she did voluntarily submit to it, that would just mean that she has been browbeaten all of her life to believe that women were the property of men to be disposed of whenever the men dictated. Have you ever heard the term Stockholm Syndrome? Look it up. This refers to a very famous hostage situation in Stockholm, in which it was found that the victims of the kidnappers over time began to identify with the kidnappers and actually supported them and defended them against law enforcement. It is a form of mental abuse. So as I say, if the widow voluntarily submitted, that just means she has been mentally abused all of her life. But Dan, aren't you imposing your own values? Absolutely. Absolutely, without an apology. In this particular case, and I'm saying in this particular case only, my life-affirming values would be superior to that male-dominated death cult that existed back in 1805 during the time of this scenario and maybe thousands of years before that. I believe I could defend my actions in any court, and I'll be consistent. I would hope that if my society practiced ritualized murder, another more enlightened society would intervene and stop it. Now, this whole exercise that you went through is based on a true story. The British did stop this practice. Sometimes they had to use force. But in the long run, women were emancipated in India. And who knows how many thousands and hundreds of thousands of lives have been saved because the British did stop it. Now look, I want to point out that cultural influences are a two-way street. In many ways, I know the British culture benefited from the influence of Indian culture. But I do believe that in this particular case, the practice of sati, the Indian culture definitely benefited from the influence of the British culture. Okay, so that's my 2 cents. And I believe that's the end of this. Yeah, it's the end of this slideshow. So I'll see you next time. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.